ArtTV with Mr. McLean. Episode 6, Clay.
It's Clay Day. Free Clay Day. Free Clay Day. We're going to do a quick dive into 3 different types of clay. The first type is, well, clay. Real clay. It's a special type of mud. The second type is polymer clay. This stuff is man-made. It's a special type of plastic. The third and final type of clay is oil-based. Oil-based clay never dries out. It's good for doing stop-motion animation, among other things. Back to real clay. Clay forms when water breaks down rocks, mud, and other organic things. It's created naturally by the earth. Clay is heated or fired at very high temperatures, often in an oven called a kiln. Here's our kiln at Woodrow Wilson Elementary School. After the clay is fired, it becomes almost like a rock and won't change its shape or its form. Unless you drop and break it, of course.
If you accidentally break something ceramic, be careful. The broken pieces can be dangerously sharp.
Can you notice any other ways that the clay changes after it is fired?
There are several different types of real clay. Here I have 2. Terracotta, which is brown before it is fired. It turns reddish orange after it's been fired. And stoneware, gray before firing, and a creamy white after it's fired. This piece of stoneware has been fired once. It is not shiny, it is matte. If I were to cover it with that special paint made for clay called glaze, and then put it back in the kiln, this time the kiln would have to get even hotter, I could turn it glossy, almost glass-like. Like this slab cup made by Carlos, a 5th grade artist at Woodrow Wilson. See how it shines? This relief sculpture by Jamir, a 4th grade artist at Woodrow Wilson, was painted with tempera paint. Those eyes are saying so much. Do you think that this sculpture is matte or glossy? Here, we have a piece of clay that was fired, and then someone painted green stripes using glaze. But wait, I thought glaze was supposed to be glossy. That looks very matte. Oh, right, duh, it has to go back in the kiln, where the glaze changes because of the high heat and becomes very glossy. Like this little vessel that was made with coils by Jonathan, a 3rd grade artist at Woodrow Wilson. I love this piece. How can it not make you smile? This stunning little slab vessel was made by 5th grade artist Yu Shin, another Binghamton artist. I really was blown away with how she painted the glaze. Look at that tail! Weird. I keep running into cats today. When working with clay, there are 2 main ways to do it. Different hand building techniques, and using the wheel. Using the wheel is one of the many things that I find challenging. I had to practice and practice just to make these lopsided little pencil holders in college. But it is oh so satisfying to watch someone who is masterful at it. Watch how the clay moves. He makes it look so easy. But wait, who is this guy?
My name is Wilson, and I am a ceramicist. So I run my own business called Wilson Ceramics, where I make and sell products made from clay, typically pottery, but a couple other things that are sort of out there and more sculptural, which you'll get to see. It's something I started when I was in middle school, followed by high school, where I took a ceramics course, and then I majored in college. So it's a lot of fun, and it's definitely a creative outlet for those of you looking for one. One of the coolest feelings is after you put glaze on your piece and you open up that kiln. It's like Christmas morning opening a gift, because you really don't know what happened, and you're so excited to see it. But usually when people ask like what makes you make the stuff that you do, it's everyday life stuff. So that's a good way to get started when you make your project. Just think about something that you enjoy, something that you think other people would like to look at or experience in a different way, and that's a great place to start.
Did you see those teapots? My favorites were the ones that looked like trees. Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful work with us, Matt. Okay, so we are going to combine two of the main hand building techniques to make one piece of art. Coils and slabs are those two main techniques. A coil is a cylinder that you can roll out with your palms. How many other things can you think of that coil? This very pretty and nice snake coils, and she matches my shirt. The other technique we'll use is creating with slabs. Slabs are flat, even pieces of clay. You can make one by pushing down on a piece of clay with your palm, by using a rolling pin, or with a slab roller like we have in the art room. Okay, I think we're ready to get started. So you know what that means. It's time for the handy dandy subject matter wheel. Okay, functional. What function will it serve, though? Okay, cool. A bowl. We'll start by rolling out a slab with this rolling pin. Then we'll cut out a circle. Start wrapping some coils. And there! Wait a minute. That doesn't look very sturdy. What am I forgetting to do? Something about slipping and scoring? Slip and score? What's it for? To connect clay together. To connect clay together. Scoring is scratching like a cat on both sides. Slip is a depth of water. Slip and score? What's it for? Okay, so don't forget to slip and score. Scratch both sides of the pieces of clay you want to join. Add a little clay water and push them together. Coiling is an ancient technique, and it is one that one of the most famous ceramicists of her time used to make her pottery. Nampeyo was a Native American from the Hopi and Tewa tribes. She lived on the Hopi reservation in Arizona. She studied ancient pottery and brought back the old ways of making pottery that her tribe had lost. She even put broken pieces of these ancient pots into her new work. Nampeyo never learned to read or to write, yet she had a really big impact on Tewa and Hopi pottery. Her work is in many museums, and in 2010, one of her pots sold for $350,000. One of the ancient techniques that she rediscovered was to put sheep bones into the fire with the clay to make the fire hotter. Another was to use the petals of a red flower to smooth the fired clay. What can we learn from the past to make our lives, or at least our art, better? The way that the genius Native American artist Nampeyo did. On to our second type of clay, polymer clay, a special type of plastic. Where's that handy dandy subject matter wheel? Great, so this one will be a sculpture. Its purpose is to be looked at. But what should my sculpture be of? Ah, a cat, of course! I can't escape cats today. So polymer clay is very different than real clay. You have to warm it up in your hands to make it soft to work with. Here, I have two different types, Original Sculpey and Sculpey 3, which is a little softer, and you have more colors. Some people use machines to soften their Sculpey. You can see me using a type of roller called a brayer here to soften my Original Sculpey. If I were you, I'd ask a brother or a sister or a parent or guardian to help soften it up by kneading it in their hands. It's actually a good stress reliever, but it does get tiring. The next step is to create the skeleton of our sculpture. We also call it an armature. Let's use tin foil. When using tin foil, try not to add a bunch of little pieces. They don't tend to stick together very well. Make sure that you squeeze the foil tight. Remember, it's a skeleton, so it should be really skinny. Now, remember, you don't need to make a cat. You should make what you want to make. It could be anything. Once your armature is done, take your softened Sculpey and pinch it into a thin sheet, but not too thin. Then wrap and pinch the Sculpey around your tinfoil armature. Here, I have the general shape, but it doesn't really look like a cat yet. It's time for me to get a reference photo to help me make it look more realistic. It's kind of like an observation drawing. You can always paint your sculpture later, but if you have the different colors of Sculpey 3, it's fun to mix them like paint right on your sculpture. When you're all done, an adult must put your piece in an oven or toaster oven for 15 minutes at 275 degrees. And then, voila! It's strong, hard, and won't change its shape. Although, it's not as strong as ceramic clay. Real clay. Before we start in with oil-based clay, let's hear what ceramic artist Jessica Gaddis has to say about being an artist. And also, let's check out her wild sculptures while we're at it. See if you can tell what found objects she uses with the clay. Like this one. Wow! The way that screen is the same shape as the wavy clay, it has me feeling a special type of way.
An artist is somebody who refuses to accept what is. I think of something in my head and I'm like, I want this thing to exist because it doesn't exist yet. And it should exist, so I'm gonna make it. And then I think the thing that keeps us going is like, okay, well that exists now, that's good, but like now there's this other thing that I want to exist and should exist. So yeah, it's like refusing to accept the fact that something doesn't exist, so making it happen.
Thank you, Jessica. I think the world is a more fascinating place because of the things that you conjured into existence. For our last type of clay, oil-based, we'll be making a figure. It's funny how the smell of something can transport you back into time. The smell of this stuff brings me back to my grandmother Dee Dee's house, where she always had some clumped on a tray in a drawer in the playroom. The good thing about it is it can last for generations without drying out. Since it doesn't dry out, it's good for playing and for practicing. And also, it is the best clay to use when making a stop-motion animation. Let's open up this figure I made for the intro and take a look at its armature. See, I used wire. You should have an adult with pliers and wire cutters if you want to make an armature using aluminum wire. But look, it bends very easily. You can use aluminum foil too. To make a figure out of tin foil, rip 2 pieces of tin foil, about the same size as these. I prefer to wash and reuse old tin foil for these projects. Then, pinch the top of the bigger piece of tin foil to create a really small pinhead. It should look like someone flying in a cape with no body. Now, Gently crush the foil below the pinhead to create a body. Now it looks like a bald person sashaying in a dress. Now rip the dress, like this. Now it is someone with huge Jenko jeans walking around. Okay, squeeze the jeans to form legs. Now, poke a hole in the middle of the smaller piece of tinfoil and stick it over the head like a bib. Squeeze the arms, and voila! You have a figure, which is another way to say a person. Now, oil-based clay is much softer than polymer clay, but it still needs to be warmed up by kneading it in your hands. If you are using your sculpture for stop motion, where you'll need to move it often and take lots of pictures, you'll want the feet to be a little bit extra, so that you'll easily be able to balance it. Okay. Stay safe, creative, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.